So, since the last time we saw each other, Africa went into the round of 16 with just two nations, both of them from the north, both of them looking to, well, continue to, well, fly the African flag, so to speak, high. Egypt ran into the defending champions, of course, in the round of 16. That was, well, a tough ask for them in trying to get beyond Lionel Messi's Argentina, whilst, well, for Morocco, they went beyond the round of 16 and ran into the losing finalists from last year. And that, of course, is France. Morocco, well, put up as good a fight as they could, but, well, the last African side to compete at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Hello, Mzansi. I am Caesar Mapena, joined by Mark Haskins as well as Jerry Kosana. Let's talk about it. Morocco's antics and, well, heroics, maybe I should say, and France just looking unstoppable from start to finish so far at the World Cup and really making a statement. Jerry, here's a Morocco side that, well, some believed, many believed, could really cause the upset against France. Your thought at the end of it all with France, while having to wait till the second half to really get the breakthroughs they were looking for?
Definitely, Caesar. I think if you just look back in terms of the knockout stages, where in the last 32, they to demolish Netherlands, that's a top European country, then they get followed up by the host, which is Canada, that beats us. You know, there was that hype that there was maybe another upset on the line, but I think they were up against a formidable side. I mean, this France team, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's the word.
I would always stick to my words when we started this World Cup. I'm saying, give me any country that is going to play France in the final. I said it before.
Yep. And that's the thing about this Moroccan side. I mean, they showed it against Brazil.
Yeah.
Where they outplayed Brazil, and Brazil was somewhat lucky one moment of individual brilliance, which, of course, Vinicius will give you. That type of player will give you. Gives Brazil a one-run scoreline, they share the spoils. But against France, when you look at the numbers, I mean, France was 21 shots to 5 from Morocco. That means even defensively, never mind the forward-minded players, but the midfield and defense gave Morocco absolutely nothing.
Yeah, again, it's a really tough one when you're coming up against what I believe is probably the most gifted squad ever assembled.
Sure.
Yep.
Ever. Because, I mean, that front four alone, what do you do? And then you got someone like Adrien Rabiot. Rabiot, at times, it looked like...
Slept on.
Yeah.
For me.
There's a moment where he picks the ball up, it kind of ricochets around the penalty area, France penalty area, and it falls to him, and he just puts it down, and they press him on his box, in his box, basically. And as cool and calm as you can ever be, he just passed, like he literally eliminates 3 players with a simple ball to Digne out wide to the winger, and then they're out of trouble. But that kind of composure, you know, in tight spaces, and this French team is just a nightmare to deal with right now. And I mean, for a really talented Moroccan team, one of the better teams at this World Cup, certainly, for France to dispose of them the way they did, it just shows the quality within this French team.
I'm going to ask you both a question that I'd love for you to think about before giving me an answer. Mark, maybe I've cheated you a bit and I gave you a bit of an advance with this question, but Sherry, consider this as well. Morocco's doing well over the last 4 years. Forget just 4 years ago when they get to the semi-finals of the World Cup, semi-finals of, well, I mean, they go as far as they do in the Olympic Games. They do what they've done in the AFCON. Come into this year, looking a formidable squad themselves. Then, of course, the final of the AFCON happens, and the changes, because of whatever happened in the AFCON final, we're not going to go back to that. But then the Moroccan FA changes the coaches, and the squad is tweaked somewhat coming into the World Cup. Does it affect Morocco in how strong they could have been? Or how strong they were? Do you believe they were stronger because of the changes, or maybe somewhat weaker because of the changes? 6 months or a few months before the World Cup.
I think, Caesar, that's a difficult one to take because you didn't know what's happening, what's transpiring inside the camp or in Morocco. Because sometimes we sit from the outside to the party. Bouadi. He didn't come to the party because you go against Rabiot,
Kone.
you know, now you still have guys like Chameni, who's not even there for the wrong player to compete in the middle of the park. But I think in terms of the squad of Morocco is more like a well-rich side in terms of players and sporting code-wise.
A big difference between Regragui and Ouabi, the two coaches, is that point of reference up top. I always mess his name.
Regragui.
Say again?
Regragui.
That guy. Yeah. So he always had a proper number 9. It was either Raimi, Al-Kabi, one of those up top. Whereas Ouabi now, the new coach, seems to want a runner up top. So that's why Saibari is playing up top. In this game with Saibari injured, you thought Rahimi would start. But El Ghanous now played out wide and Talbi came in. El Ghanous played up top and Talbi came in where El Ghanous normally operates. So it seems he favors a mobile striker, someone up top and so he's using wingers almost as a striker. That's probably the big difference where we didn't get to see Al-Kabi in this World Cup really. I think he came on in one game where didn't really get a lot of minutes. And we know what he did at AFCON. I mean, he scored two overhead kicks that just, blew our minds. But that's the big difference. And maybe that's what was lacking where, there are too many guys who were mobile where they didn't have a point of reference, so they didn't really stretch opposition defenses.
Especially the tight matches, the tight situations.
Especially a game like a France where you needed someone to really put Upamecano and Saliba and kind of force them backwards. So they were playing in front of them, which made it comfortable for France. But again, hindsight is 2020.
I was going to say that. We will say this in hindsight, of course. But we have to take our hats off to Morocco and Egypt, of course, and as far as they got in this World Cup, and take our hats off to a France team that's really looking scary as things do move along. We'll continue to talk about the 2026 FIFA World Cup and game on as we take a short break and come back and pick the brains of Haskin as well as Kosana.
Let's get the views of Michael in the UK.
Yes, Carol, what a huge game at the top of the table. I can't wait. Teco? Carol? Reggie?
Hollywood Bets. Catch the feeling.
Welcome back to Game On now. Egypt were the last of the outside of Morocco, that is, of the African nations to battle at this World Cup. And my oh my, what a battle that turned out to be. Up against the defending champions in Argentina. And, well, Egypt took up a 2-goal lead and looked good for a spot in the quarterfinals until an unbelievable comeback, Jerry. Starting off with the lead, the comeback from Argentina, the decisions that some see as controversial, and the overall 3-2 win for Argentina over Egypt.
Yes, I think it was one of the best performances that I've seen from an African team, honestly, in such a big stage, to play against the world champions. I mean, to have a 2-goal lead, Hassan. Unfortunately, he had to cramp, and then the fatigue took its toll. And I think that's where maybe Egypt had a little bit of a downfall in terms of their approach. But what the best performance ever from an African team that I'm proud of.
Certainly, they were fantastic on the day. The two players that got injured in that game and had to be subbed, Ashur and
he was also first off. He was outstanding. Both were outstanding.
What they did was, because they had the back four, and then Ashur and Hassan were the wingers, dropped in and almost made a back six. Yep. So that's how they subdued Argentina for large parts of the game. And so, like what Brajer is saying, you could see the planning that went into this. They came with a game plan that pretty much worked for the better part of the game, and they were really able to stifle and, just irritate Argentina for a long time. And Messi, this was not one of Messi's best performances until, like, let's call it the last 15 minutes.
When he moved to the right.
When he moved to the right,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, Messi was Messi. And Messi did Messi things. But again, I agree with Brajeri. What a performance from an Argentina perspective. It was a controversial, very, very controversial game. A lot of decisions that are questionable. But, you know, Egypt can hold their heads up high. This was a really solid performance from them. And against the world champions, really, really top performance.
Switzerland and Colombia were the other teams that were in action. And something that's been rare to see in this World Cup is a no scoreline at the end of the match. That ended with a no scoreline. But Switzerland, who've also been a side that's been sending out messages, whether you've been picking them up or not, advanced through on penalties, and they, of course, stand before Argentina. Mark, but the win over Colombia first.
It's gonna be a tough one. Like you look at that game, and in my mind, Colombia were the dark horses of the tournament, given how they played the early games in this tournament. In favor of Norway. I never thought I would live in Norway. And then same thing, Switzerland dominated. They were 55% to 45 in terms of possession. So that's how football has evolved and how football has changed. Where the European nations now, who we knew in the past primarily you'd see route one football, very direct football. Everybody now is able to play the ball, and that speaks to the modern game. But again, Switzerland were very solid, and against a Colombian team that have no pushovers.
Jerry, we spoke about, well, I mentioned three greats of the game here, possibly greats of all time. Lionel Messi, still in the World Cup. From an African point of view, of course, it's Mohamed Salah, one of the greatest ever from the African continent. He's now knocked out. Meaning there was a third. That, of course, is Cristiano Ronaldo. They came up against Spain, and in a game where it looked Spain had it all in control, under control, and played the football, they had to wait for the late winner against stubborn Portugal. Your thoughts on that game?
Honestly speaking, Caesar, for me watching that game, I think in terms of the status that we put these two countries in. You're talking about Portugal, you're talking about Ronaldo, you're talking about Spain, you can mention a lot, but obviously Lamine Yamal, you know, all of that. But, wow, for me, the expectation was not as what I thought it was going to be, an electrifying game, because both big dogs in European football coming against each other. But for me, that was a dull game. Honestly speaking, one of the dullest games that I've seen from both European countries. I didn't really enjoy the way they play, because both teams couldn't want to go and attack each other so that you've got excitement in football. Sit back, trying to keep position, and making sure when we attack, we only attack with one or two, and then we just want to make sure, because both teams didn't really showcase what we expect. This is a World Cup. It's not a qualifier to the World Cup. It's more like in the last 16 of the World Cup, where you want to see things that are more exciting, knockout a game, two big European countries, giants of this game. But for me, honestly, that was one dull game that I don't know. I don't want to be a criticism. I expected more. You can take it as more like a World Cup final of 2026 when you consider both countries. But for me, yes, Spain did go through, but it was not yet convincing for me.
Well, not convincing. No, keep in mind, Belgium, maybe an aging giant, had the 4-1 win over the United States to advance and going into the next stage. We take a short break, and when we come back, we continue to discuss sides such as Norway and their big win over Brazil, including England, and wow, Mexico pushing them right to the end. Welcome back to Game On Now. We continue to discuss what's been happening after the World Cup. So many big talking points, and one of them is a nation nobody really talked about going into the World Cup, Norway. Odegaard from Arsenal, of course, the captain of the side, in Haaland, the scoring machine at City, the man who's leading the charge out at Norway, and up against Brazil. Well, the good money. For most people on earth, it would have been on Brazil, clearly beyond Norway. But my oh my, what a turnaround we saw in this game, where Well, being humble in the game first, they came to the fore, and the way Norway do business and the way Haaland and Odegaard carry themselves. But what a showing from Haaland and company, Jerry, to win this game with a 2-1 scoreline.
Great showing indeed, but I also want to give credit to a player that is a good leader. I mean, a captain at Arsenal, and also captain for Norway, Odegaard. But for me, this is it's what you'd expect in terms of Haaland. I mean, the supply that he gets, I think they've got a winger, if you remind me, Maki. What a player that plays on the left.
Nusa is a very good player. And Schulderup, who came on at halftime. Bob also. So yeah,
quality players. I mean, they complement what Haaland wants, because you'll never see Haaland trying to defend, chase the ball at the back. He's more like a player, a little bit like Messi, but he's more prolific.
66% to 34%. It's absolutely ridiculous. But from when you look at Brazil perspective, it also comes down to missed opportunities, because they had a penalty that was saved. Bruno Guimaraes had the chance to put them in the lead. And then Nyland, the goalkeeper for Norway, made some really top-notch saves.
In the last game as well.
Yeah.
Now, I have to quickly keep it moving, gentlemen. Mexico, England. We spoke in that game about England. I don't know if you remember, having players now that have done something a bit different over the last 10, 15 years, that are playing outside of English borders and make names for themselves as stars outside of England. Bellingham is one of them. Kane, yes, is now a star outside of England, having made a name for himself within English borders. But they were crucial in what was a tough win over Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, playing against Mexico at altitude with 100,000 supporters all, going one way, it was never going to be easy, but they had to really dig deep. And when you look at the pressure they were under, especially after the red card as well, they really came to the party, and none more so than Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. They were colossal for England in this match, and they will be if England want to, as they say, bring it home.
I also want to maybe touch on the goalkeeper. I think the Everton goalkeeper is Pickford. I mean, there were like some doubts about him, a lot of criticism being labeled against him, especially in England, because playing for Everton, a team is not in contention of being champions, and he's always there. But for me, he's been stunning. He's been fabulous.
Oh my, that should be one where we all, of course, are kept on the edge of our seats. Now, let's keep this moving. And Hollywood Bets, of course, has continued to kick back. They do so in the way of the Hollywood Bets Men's Regional League, the fourth tier of South African football. We're looking at Gauteng, where the action all happened in CDB a week ago.
Every season, the Hollywood Bets Regional League playoffs take center stage and provide excitement for the fans. It's also an opportunity for players to make a name for themselves at a higher level of football in their respective regions. These playoffs are always exciting and form a key part of the football ecosystem, with spots the ABC Motsepa League up for grabs.
I'm actually very excited to see this kind of a tournament, wherein we actually wanted to determine the overall winner of the Gauteng Hollywood Bet Regional Leagues. So you could see the standard and the level that was here. It was not easy to determine as to who can actually win. Look, when you look at the type of the team that we have in Bafana Bafana, it actually shows to say that the standard of football is very high. Don't be surprised that in the next 5 years, from this type of a championship, we've got one player that could actually emerge for Bafana Bafana.
The Gauteng playoff final was contested by Lesco SC and Boipatong FC, who had beaten all before them to seal a spot in the showpiece match. We were treated to goals galore, with a total of 7 strikes in the match, with Lesco securing a 4-3 victory on the day.
Means a lot. It's a massive achievement. For myself personally, as a coach, it's something to be proud of for these boys, for their families, for the community of Lenasia. It's an absolutely massive achievement, and yeah, it was a special day, so it means a lot. Coaching them is one of my lifetime honors. Giving these boys an opportunity to play football, to be recognized, to further their development, both on and off the field. I think that's something that I cherish really. When we played the previous playoff in Joburg, there were a few boys with interest from universities, from NFD clubs. So I think it gives me an opportunity to contribute positively towards their lives with the hope of changing a life and changing a family's life. So it's definitely something I'm proud of, and it's something I look forward to and I value a lot.
I've been here 3 times and failed the 3 times. And to me now, to win it now, it's something special. I can't explain to you how it feels. I can't explain to you how I feel. But joy overflows, and I'm happy.
From my side, we are actually delighted to have Hollywood Bet back in this type of tournament, and we so wish that they could actually put more, so that we have this type of championship at the level of the region, whereby the players will have more time to can actually, play this kind of games.
Well, Hollywood Bets doing their thing, of course, contributing in the 3rd year, or 4th year, I should say, of South African football, and all the way down to grassroots level. We are grateful for all they're doing. Not only that, but also making sure that we as a team come to see you once every week to ensure that you are entertained. So, from myself, Susan Mapena, Mark Haskins, Jerry Scosana, and the rest of the team that is behind the scenes, until next week, click, click, bang.